So when we get locked up, that is the time that we can actually stop and read something, a book, a Bible. We pray a lot. We are in a cell alone, so we not high drinking and shit. So we kind of get to contemplating on life and thinking about how we living and the choices that we making and the hole we done dug ourselves into. And like for me, getting locked up, that first 72 hours be the best sleep in the world to me. Each time I done got arrested and locked up. The first couple of days, sleep, you're not bothered, they leave you alone. And when I did get somewhere where I could get a hold to a Bible, that's the first thing I read. And I used to lay in my bed with the Bible next to my head, and I start at Genesis, and I read all the way, and I read, and I keep reading until like my eyes tear up, and I have to close my eyes and drift off to sleep. And then I'll make a little mark where I stopped at, and I'll pick up from there and keep reading. And I kept reading through the Bible, and I was looking for the answers to my questions. And then I was wondering, like, how is this guy supposed to be the son of God, God's son, and he's not a God, or he a God, but he a man. And when I read Jesus' own words, Son of Man, I'm the Son of Man, I'm the Son of Man, over and over again. And then I was looking at the beginning when I read through Deuteronomy, and I seen the stuff in Jeremiah about, the Christmas trees and don't eat the swine. And I'm thinking like, man, God is perfect. And I was taught to think that this book was a perfect book, God's words. It was a holy book. It didn't have no imperfections in it or no mistakes in it. But I wasn't taught about, interpretations and ancient writings and the Pentateuch and the Septuagint. I didn't learn about these things until I was grown of age. And I'm reading Jesus' words and what he did in the Bible, things he said, how he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane. And I'm reading stuff in John and Mark, and I'm always thinking that this guy, John, Mark, Matthew, and Luke were disciples or people that was like actually there with Jesus. This is what always grew up thinking. This is what most of us grew up thinking. And when we actually read this stuff and we actually read, like, I'm gonna even say, I'm not a member of the Nation of Islam, but I'm gonna say this. We actually read Message to the Black Man and things Malcolm X said and what he taught. And we are drawn to Islam I think just naturally in our DNA. But we go through that street stuff, and then when we get locked up, we learn about ourselves and what's dangerous for us and why we act the way we act, why we do the things we doing. Why did I want to grow up and like pump the hood and be a hoodster? And why did I pick crime as a job? Learn what happened during chattel slavery, what happened during Reconstruction with the black codes and the Jim Crow laws. We learn about the lynchings, the bombings, the hangings. Emmett Till, we learn about the Willie Lynch letter, about how to keep the slaves divided by like skin tone, make the brighter slaves and the darker slaves despise each other to keep them under control. We read about how they turned Jesus into a white man, and then we learn things like, I actually reading the Bible, I was looking for black people in the Bible. I literally was like, when I was reading, then I think it was in the Book of Songs or something, like Songs of Solomon or something like that. They be talking about one of his wives and how beautiful her black skin was. And that was my first time ever even hearing about somebody black being in the Bible. It was when I read it for myself. No one in church ever told me or said anything. And then I'm not thinking when Mary and Joseph went on the run with the baby because King Herod had issued a proclamation to kill all the first male sons. They went into Egypt, which is Africa. And I'm pretty sure if Mary was a pale Caucasian woman and Jesus was a pale, chunky baby, they would not have went into Africa to hide because they would have stuck out like a sore thumb. And I never thought about those things. But then when I began to read and really decipher, look for answers, I could find the answers to my questions. And when I started studying Islam, and it was about La ilaha illallah, God is one, that made complete sense to me, that there is only one God. And then when I started learning about how the Quran was revealed and the scientific proofs that are in the Quran, that this has to be from the Creator. Because only the Creator would know these things, not some desert Arab just making these things up or picking these things out the air, that every living thing is made from what has water in it, and that mountains are like pegs. The bottom of a mountain look the same as the top, like it's stuck in the ground. Like this things that the moon reflects the light of the sun. Like, I know a desert Arab did not just make up these things or come up with these things. And when you read in the Bible, you read Jesus, the words of Jesus, he predicts that God is going to send Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these things to me are concrete proofs of Islam. In the book that I grew up being told that this contains the truth, and I'm seeing these things that Jesus is saying. I'm seeing these things that Moses has said about a prophet like unto him. Moses did not grow up in his household. His mother gave him to a wet nurse pretty much. And he grew up in the house of the Pharaoh. And Prophet Muhammad did not grow up in his household. His father died when he was young. And he grew up in the house of Abu Talib, who was his uncle. And Moses also said they're going to be the cousins of you. Not you, but of your kindred. And Prophet Muhammad and the rest of the Semites are descendants of Ishmael, Abraham's son. And I just saw the prophecy in Moses' words, in the words of Jesus. And we understand that how can we practice what the slave master gave us and lie to us and change these things from this? And if you learn about history anyway, you will learn that the Greeks were the so-called first civilized people, but they got their civilization from the Egyptians, their knowledge, their religion and spirituality from Africa, from the Egyptians. And the Greeks passed their civilization on to the Romans, and the Roman civilization fell upon us, it crumbled, as you can see, and turned into a nation of pedophiles and rapists. Hence the 800 and something billion dollar lawsuit that they settled out with, paid out to their victims. And that is pretty much like how somebody gets locked up and turns to Islam and converts, or considers himself to be a Muslim because he learns the true meaning of the word Muslim. Muslim only means one who submits to peace, one in peace, one who does peace. That's all it does. Submission. And when you submit to God, there will be peace. That's the understanding. That's all Islam is about. Submission to God, not taking anything else as an idol, and following and dedicating yourself to that and worshiping that, whether it be money, a singer, a rapper, a gangster, a pastor, an imam, a president, a mayor, a gang leader, your boss, another person, an image. Like Islam cancels all of this stuff out, and it's just like, it's like once you can stop from being in the rat maze, your eyes open up and you can actually see, and you can actually take things in without it coming through the filter of someone else's lens. And you begin to understand things more and you read more. That's why everyone who gets locked up goes to jail or prison. They are not the same thing. Jails are where people wait, where they can't make bond or bail. And after they go to court and they are either found not guilty or guilty, then they go to prison after that. Prison, you can go outside and get fresh air and stuff. Jails usually don't do that at all. And people that go to jail or prison usually get out kind of feeling like they're pretty smart, much smarter. And they'll talk much more and longer. Because when you feed yourself up with information, it's addictive. It's like a drug. Well, to me it is. Like, once I love books since, I can tell you, since the bookmobile used to come around. Since I could get a library card, I love books. I've always loved books. I see anything, I pick it up and read it. A Newsweek will be boring to a regular kid because it's not cartoon with comics. I would grab that. I can remember the first Newsweek I read, it had a picture of Fidel Castro on the cover, and he had this big cigar in his mouth. And I grabbed it and I started reading it. And that's how I learned about Fidel Castro and Cuba and the revolution that they had. And all these things was just fascinating to me because I understood what I was reading. And it made sense. Like, they had the Cuban Missile Crisis, and they thought the Russians was trying to put bases down there so they could have missiles closer to the United States in case they wanted to attack. All these things, I loved history. I became a kind of history, a fan of history, in like social studies when I was learning about the indigenous Native Americans and that stuff. Kind of fascinated me living in St. Louis because, you know, the Cahokia Mountains are right down the highway, and the Missouri and the Mississippi rivers meet right up here as a junction. And along the banks of the Missouri River in Jefferson City, you can find Indian arrowheads sometimes in the creek beds and stuff. Pretty cool out here sometimes when the weather's not being crazy. But don't knock people for going, you know, converting to Islam or becoming Muslim after they go through a trial or tragedy, you know. You should big up somebody for trying to step up their life and learn something new, you know. That's all I want to say on that topic. You guys have a blessed evening. Make your prayers. Ask for forgiveness. Choose monotheism, the real monotheism, which is Al-Islam. And praising God, the creator of all that is not created, the first and the last. You know, through no middleman. You don't need no middleman to talk to God. And my dudes, stop going in and out. I've been in and out. Like, I'm talking about like in, and I got out, then I went back in on violation. I actually caught another case. I got out of prison in 2011. In 2012, I caught a gun case because I fell asleep at a stoplight. I had been to the strip club, and I went and I got I ordered some chicken wings because this lady at Bottoms Up, it was a certain black lady that be in the kitchen. She made these wings. The way she made them, I don't know what she was doing to them, but they were so good. And my wife, she loved them. And since I was across the water, me and CeeLo, we was just going to have a drink, and then we was going to bounce. And that's all we did. We went in, had a drink, I ordered the wings, drank the rest of my drink, picked my wings up, paid for them, got in the car, headed back home. I talked to my wife. I was about to go home. I talked to my wife on the phone. She was at work. I told her, baby, guess what? I got something for you. She like, what? She asked me where I had been. I told her I went to Bottoms Up. And I was like, I got something for you. She like, what? I said, them wings. And she was like, oh, I'm so hungry. Meet you, bring them to me. I'm like, okay, don't even worry about it. You know, anything. I was that type of guy for my wife back then. I should have remained that guy. But I got off track. I did. I took her food up to her job, gave it to her, and while Lee coming out of Forest Park on Union and Lindell, sitting at the light, waiting on the light, the red light to turn so I can cross Lindell, I fall asleep. And when I fall asleep, my foot comes off the brake. The pressure is decreased on the brake pedal, and my car idles out across the light, and then it hits a parked car parked along the curb, and I'm in the car asleep, and the police wake me up. I have a 40 caliber Smith & Wesson in my lap, and they arrest me, take me downtown, process me, and I was locked up a few days until I made bond, and my beautiful wife arranged for me to have one of the best lawyers in the city, Christy Ridings, at the time on my case and got my bill paid. I had some money at the house, and my homeboy Pooh, RIP, he put the rest of the money together that I didn't have, that I was short, to make my bond. Get me out. I got out. I was good for a while. Later on that year, someone murders Pooh, and I revert back to my old 90s ways. I want revenge. I'm riding around, tracking people down, kind of doing my own little bootleg investigation into what's going on. But you know, we was kind of off base a little bit. But it is what it is. And I happened to go federal for the gun and other items. My paperwork say other items, but the other items were ammunition and a flak vest. I had a bulletproof vest. Then I had a smaller flak vest. I had a small caliber bulletproof vest made by American Eagle, American Arms, I mean. And I went fed for that. They didn't charge me with the vest, with the body armor, because you have to be wearing the body armor in the commission of the crime, the federal crime, for them to charge you with those points on your PSI. And I wasn't wearing it committing any offense at the time. And they got a Chinese AK from me. Well, SKS rather is what they really call them. But it was a big boy. Them 7.62s in there. On my little baby. I used to keep that thing even when I just had my little 96 Cutlass with little 6-cylinder. One of my cylinders misfired. I used to have that thing in the car with me. I'm glad police ain't never get on me, behind me in it. Cause it'd have been over. I'd have tried to get out of there, and I had 5 cylinders instead of 6. They'd have boxed me in, hawked me down, flipped me, made me rap or something. It'd have been bad, it'd have been ugly. Or I'd have got out and got busy with that thing, man. Ain't no telling how I was feeling back then. I was still thinking I was young and thugging back in 2012. But don't knock nobody for going, getting locked up and then becoming Muslim or changing their name to Sharif or Rasul or whatever they choose their attribute to be. Help that person out, pray for that person. They get their life together and they be on the right track, and that God protect them and forgive them, because they ask for forgiveness and put them on the right path. I mean, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.